Welcome everyone again to the Toby Nexus YouTube channel. And today we'll be adding another video to our debate playlist, and we'll be looking at the secret skills of great debaters with a focus on strategy and nuance. And what we'll be learning today is firstly, what is strategic implementation in debate, the three concepts of strategy that debaters and teams should consider, especially when they are trying to come up with ideas or arguments for a particular motion, what is nuanced analysis, and how to build nuanced arguments. So, starting with the first concept in the slides, which is strategic implementation. Strategic implementation is simply when debaters are able to use their arguments wisely. Because good debaters don't just have arguments. Instead, they know when to use those arguments, how long they would need to explain those arguments, which of the arguments or ideas that they have been able to generate matters the most, and then which arguments to ignore, both on their end and on the end of their opponents. Then, why is strategic implementation very important, especially to debaters and teams in general? The reason why this is important is because debate is not just about saying the most arguments or speaking the loudest or repeating points and hoping that you will win. No, it's not hope chess. Debating is about choosing the best set of arguments, explaining it clearly, and winning the most important battles, especially in terms of clashes and engagement. It's like a football match, and good teams don't just kick the ball randomly and hope to score a goal. Rather, they attack and focus on the weaknesses of their opponents and use that to get a win. Now, the three concepts of strategies that debaters or teams in general should look at when they are coming up with ideas for a particular motion are firstly, which arguments should they prioritize? Secondly, which one should I spend more time on? And then lastly, how they can choose the best battles to engage in. Let's start with the first concept, which is on prioritization. Now, not all arguments that you will get from debate teams are important. Some arguments are much more important than others, even if they are supporting the same team. As such, they require more time to develop. So, for example, you have three arguments that you have heard from a team. The first argument is that school uniforms reduce bullying. The second is that uniforms save time in the morning. The third is that uniforms look neat. Now, which of these three arguments do you think, as a team or as opposition team, that they should spend more time developing? So at this point in the video, you can pause it, think for a minute or two about this question, write your answer down, and then you can play the video to listen to the answer that I would give. So I'm guessing you must have already thought of your answer now. The answer to this question is simply looking at the impact of each of these arguments and deciding which of the impacts of these arguments are or is the highest at the end of the day. Now, if we look at the three arguments, the first argument, which is it reduces bullying, has the highest impact because bullying is something that affects a lot of students in any part of the world, and it's something that they would be very happy to get rid of, or at least very happy to reduce in schools at the end of the day. So that is necessarily how you end up deciding which of the particular arguments that you and your team have been able to come up with should you guys focus on more and develop more on at the end of the day. Now, the next thing, which is on time allocation. And this is very simple because it's just a no-brainer that any particular argument that you feel has the highest impact, you should spend more time developing that argument so that you're able to convince judges and persuade them that your side is right. But then also to ensure that the argument is strong enough to resist any attack that you get from the opponent side. And this is just like minus you and your teammates trying to review the case after probably the case has been reported at the end of the day. Ensuring that the case on its own is strong enough to resist attacks, that even after rebuttals, you don't necessarily need to do that much rebuilding because you have already sort of preempted all those responses before you give the argument at the end of the day. The last thing is on choosing battles. And this has to do with the way teams respond to and answer questions from other teams. A lot of the time, kids panic in a debate round and they try to answer everything. But that is not just the best way to debate because you don't even have enough time to answer or respond to all the arguments that you get from the opponent's team. And as such, the best move for debaters is to focus on the biggest clash, the strongest attacks of your opponents, and the most important disagreements that you guys would need to prove you win for you to just win the whole round at the end of the day. Now, let's take an example of what choosing battles would look like. So let's say that you guys are debating a motion, which is this house would ban homework. And you guys are proposition, and your opposition have three arguments. The first argument is that homework helps students practice lessons. The second one is that homework teaches responsibility and time management. And the third one is that some homeworks can help parents know what children are learning. You are proposition and you only have 1 minute left. Which argument or arguments will you focus on? Now, you can do the same thing as the last class exercise. You can pause the video, think for a minute or two, and then write down your answer somewhere. After that, you can play the video to get the answer that I would say afterwards. So I'm guessing you have probably done that by now. And I think if you look at the three arguments, the arguments with a very huge impact, or at least reasonable impacts, are the first and second argument. And as such, as prop, if I want to win over my opposition side, I would attack the first two arguments, probably the first one more, but then if I'm able to finish the first one and there's still time, I would also try as much as possible to attack the second argument because those are the strongest arguments from opposition and from opposition side. And then if I have time, probably I would try to rebut the last one. But the thing is that even if you don't rebut the last argument, it's not going to necessarily help the opposition team because that particular argument doesn't have a very high impact at the end of the day. So even if it's left standing, even if you do not respond to it, but you're able to tackle the most important argument on upside, you will still be able to win at the end of the day. Now, moving on to nuance analysis. So, nuance analysis is how we avoid the trap of black and white thinking. And what black and white thinking just means is basically when debaters think their argument is totally good and the other side is just totally bad. The truth is that most debates are not like that. They are not fully bad or fully good. For example, let's take social media. Social media has been able to allow a whole lot more connection in the world, connect people from different places, from places in Africa to places in Korea, in China, and so on. Right? This is a very good impact of social media. But even with that good impact, it also has been able to allow a lot of online bullying, which is a bad impact of social media as well. And as such, for you to make a nuanced analysis, you need to consider two things. The first is perspective, especially of the actor or actors that you are trying to like prioritize or look at the debate through their lenses. And then the second is trade-offs. We'll talk about these two things more in the next slide. So, in terms of perspectives, what does this mean? It means that different people see things in different way and prioritize these things based on their own unique circumstances and experiences. And so, even if something is good in a general sense, it will still differ or matter according to the different perspectives of an individual or according to different perspectives that you're debating from. And the simplest example is to say that you might have a pen, right? And the pen is good for writing, for communicating, for doing a lot of work. But that pen would matter differently to a parent as to a child. The parent might see the pen as something that is very important for their workplace, etc. And then the child might see that pen as something that they can use to just relieve themselves, to have fun, to do some works, etc. at the end of the day, but it's not important to them. It's good in a general sense, but the way it's good is different according to the actors. The next thing is trade offs. And so, trade off just basically means that sometimes solving one problem creates another one. But people are willing to face a smaller problem if that means that they are able to solve a big problem on the other hand. What does this look like? So, if you put more security cameras in a school, it would improve the overall safety. But a lot of people would lose much of their privacy because now there's a lot of cameras in the school monitoring them. But teachers, students, and even the parents of students are willing to let go of that privacy to ensure that their students are safe at the end of the day. So this is just basically like what nuance analysis looks like. So when you are making your argument, you need to consider those particular things. Oh, what particular perspective are we looking at this argument from? And secondly, what are the likely trade-offs that you would have at the end of the day? Thank you guys for watching. I hope you have been able to learn a thing or two, and I hope this helps you to improve your debating skills as well. See you on the next one.